back again with another video. I'm going to try to work on my sound quality because I don't like the playback volume of my videos, but got to run it through probably a couple programs to figure that out. Had a little time off today. Usually I'm off on the weekend, so thought I might go ahead and slide in the video real quick. What I want to talk about today is power and responsibility. A lot of people look at power as a good thing to have, and it is a good thing to have, especially if you do right by it. It's a great thing to have, though a lot of people don't account for the responsibility portion of having power. I'll give you an example. I own animals, and I have control over them, which is the power. Well, there are certain laws that govern how to care for animals and what you need to do. So I have the power to feed my animals or not feed them. If the ASPCA was called for whatever reason in regards to my animals, I would be responsible for the physical health condition they're in due to the lack of me feeding them. So that plays out in a lot more other things that you can think of. For instance, what goes on in your house. If you are in charge, if you hold the power of what goes on in your four walls, then you are also responsible for what goes on in your four walls. Now, my topics are usually geared towards the interactions between men and women, but the subject matters that I discuss are things that permeate through the different genres of life that are out there. They also permeate through the different choices that you make within that genre of lifestyle. So a lot of the things I say can be applied to other aspects of life that have no inclusion of dealing with men or women or in any relationship basis. But that's where I like to start from, because that's the most relatable thing that we have in common, next to being human, is our social interactions with each other. But how this applies to relationships, and I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. This also goes for your family members. This also goes for your children, extended family, is if someone is requiring you to have a responsibility to them, then it should come with the power of making the choices within that region of responsibility. So for instance, if you're with someone and you tell them, hey, I need you to go down to the store and grab some groceries because I'm at work right now and I can't do it, and here's the money. They have the power to execute that when given the responsibility to give that, if they have the resources to do so. That's also a factor that plays into it. But 9 times out of 10, you're not asking somebody to do something who can't do it. Or say for instance, like, what's another good example of power and responsibility? Let's say a woman's submission. If a woman submits to you, she gives you the authority over her in whatever area that she submits to you in. You have the power over her in that area. So you also shoulder the responsibility of her in that way. You can't just expect a woman to give you her all and not shoulder her responsibility. I mean, you can, but that's a non-reciprocal relationship, and that isn't structurally sound. Where this applies to is structurally sound relationships. If you're ever in a situation where you are either giving someone the power or receiving the power, if there's a non-reciprocal exchange going on, or non-exchange in that matter, then there's going to be some breakdown. because there's only so long anyone can operate in a way where they're giving without receiving. Now, a lot of people look at taboo relationships. For instance, like the sub and dom relationships. A lot of people don't understand how those works, but those work off of the same principles. The sub is receiving something that they hold in value for the power that they're giving away. There's always a reciprocal exchange going on. So you also have to keep in mind that you, as the one with power, hold a greater responsibility than the one who gave away the power. At the point where you hold power, once it's out of the person's hand, they gave you the power over whatever matter it is, then you are the more responsible one. And a lot of people don't understand that. This plays out in so many relationship types. This plays out in so many interactions that you deal with people from day to day. It plays out in almost everything that I can possibly think of. I can't think of a situation where, your social interactions with anyone doesn't have an exchange that is healthy, where there's not a power and responsibility dynamic. I can't think of one. So I would say, be cognitive of who you're giving power to, and also be cognitive of what you have power over, because that shifts the responsibility of who has it and who doesn't. You can't expect someone to be held responsible for something that they don't have power over. I think it's asinine, personally. I've ran into these situations throughout my lifetime. And I had to learn what to take responsibility for and what not to take responsibility for. That was something that I had to groom into my manhood. It was very important for me to learn that, because I was running into problems of overexhaustion and, emotional frustration, because I didn't have the knowledge to see myself through that and understand those fundamental points of power and responsibility. So I say, be very cognitive of that. A lot of people just brush it off, or, a lot of people have their expectations of how things should be. I'm a realist. I live very much in the reality. I'm very grounded. That's why I have such a high rationality when it comes to my interactions with people. People oftentimes say that I'm cold-hearted, or I'm, without emotion, but that's far from the truth. I do operate in emotion sometimes when it's necessary, although I prioritize my rationality before my emotions, because that's unsafe for a man to do otherwise. If a man start prioritizing his emotions over his rationality, he's going to ruin himself. He's going to ruin his lifestyle. He's going to ruin everything he works for, or has worked for. But anyways, that's another topic. My point is, first, like I said, there are two sides to this. There are two sides to this, but there are four dynamics that play out. But they all deal with the power and responsibility. The two dynamics that play out is the person who has an expectation of being responsible, and the person who also has the expectation of being the one in charge, the one with the power. Now, this takes two people to do, or this takes two entities to be able to accomplish this. There has to be an understanding. The other side of that understanding is the person or the entity giving away the power, and also charging the person with the responsibility for them having the power. Like I said, there are four ways that this plays out. You can't expect to have power and not have responsibility. You can't have that. You can't have the power and not have responsibility. That's one of the two ways that it plays out. So the power is the one way, the responsibility is the second way of how it works out. and vice versa. You can't expect someone to have responsibility over things that they don't have power with. I say it for because these things have been individually placed on people and individually picked up by people. That's why there's 4 different ways that you can approach this. But the two are coupled together. With the power comes the responsibility. It's the expectations and the communication between the two, whether it be nonverbal. There are nonverbal, power exchanges all the time. But be cognitive of where you stand in your life when it comes to the power and the responsibility that you have and the power and responsibility that you've given away. Because it'll help you cope and deal with the world accordingly so that you can get out of an entitled mindset, if you have one. And you can get out of an expectation mindset if you have one. But anyways, this has been my video. I wanted to make it short and sweet, direct to the point. Comment, of course. Like, share, and subscribe, of course. But till next time, this has been the Wolf, and may it close.